Welcome back to A Numbers Game with Ryan Gerdusky. We're going to do a deep dive on Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar and her Dignity Act because she says it's on amnesty, but I've done a lot of homework on it and her, and we'll get to that in 1 second. But I want to talk about the Eric Swalwell story really briefly. Congressman Eric Swalwell, running for governor, the leading Democrat for governor of California, has been accused of sexual assault and sexual harassment by at least 4 different women. The women's stories are slightly murky. Not that I don't believe that they have any merit to them, but like one had a previous sexual relationship with Swalwell. It's not like the most concrete case that it could be. However, everyone in DC has heard stories about Swalwell being handsy and inappropriate with women. I know of at least 2 women in my own social circle who Swalwell came onto and aggressively touched, went after them when they were not consenting or wanting any part of it. I think this case has legs to it. I think it's going to go further. I think more women are going to come forward. In fact, I've spoken to women who are saying they may come forward. So I think that there's a lot more to the story than we are going to see. And I think that it will all but kill his bid for governor of California. Okay. We'll go more into that as the story, comes forward and we do more of a deep dive. But that's the case for Eric Swalwell, just so that way you've heard and you know it. All right. First, now let's go to Maria Elvira Salazar. Who is this woman who's constantly talking about illegal immigration and the need to support illegal immigration? Well, Maria Elvira Salazar, for you to know, she's the congresswoman from the Miami area. She grew up in between Miami and Puerto Rico for most of her life and rose to prominence in the 80s as a political correspondent for Spanish language television networks like Univision. And in the 90s, she covered the El Salvadorian Civil War. That was pretty prominent. And in 1995, she landed her biggest interview of her career when she got to interview Fidel Castro, the communist dictator, obviously from Cuba, who is now long deceased. In the interview, she ended up I would say I don't speak Spanish, so it didn't come across this to me. To some people, she came off complimentary or overly respectful for Castro. And this interview ends up coming to haunt her in the future. We'll come back to that. In 2003, she lands another big interview where she gets to talk to Chilean dictator Augusto Pinochet. He was actually just a few years from death, and her interview with him was the evidence provided to prove that he wasn't competent enough to stand trial for human rights violation. So, it ended up, I guess, working out for him. She also interviews many American politicians, Bill Clinton, George Bush. And then in 2016, she started making more of a mainstream presence for herself on English language television. She tried and failed to get an interview with President Donald Trump, or then candidate Donald Trump. And she spoke to Bill O'Reilly about it when she wanted to convey to him, that Salazar wanted to convey to Trump, that the American people really didn't need a border wall. Let's go to clip 1.
Immigration laws are being broken in this country every single day by 2 groups. Number 1, the illegals, the ones that everybody talks about, mentions, people that are crossing the border, jumping the fence, defying the desert. But there's this other group called the business owners of America, who are offering those aliens or those illegal aliens jobs. So if we really want to, in this country, fix immigration the problem, we have to be transparent.
Yeah, so
no
the E-Verify and stuff like that.
E-Verify.
Right.
You don't need a wall. Some people think, sir, that you don't need a physical wall. You need an electronic one, which is in place already.
I think
California and Illinois.
It'd probably be best to do both to some extent.
Fine, but let's talk about the other one as well.
Okay, so she makes multiple Fox News appearances during this year when Trump's running for president, talking about the border. She kind of becomes the Fox News. She doesn't have a paid employee of Fox News, but she gets on Fox News enough to be the right-wing voice for illegal immigrants. She almost becomes a spokesperson for Republicans, saying that they need to be nicer to illegals. where she said she also says, by the way, there is like no negatives to being nicer towards illegal aliens. Go to clip 2.
There are 12 states that allow illegals to have driver's licenses. Make the case for that. I think it sounds like it shouldn't be going on, but you say differently.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and happy holidays. It's the intelligent thing to do for the California lawmakers. Why? For 2 reasons. Economic reasons and for security reasons. Economic reasons. The California business owners are going to be very happy because those people that are working for them are going to be on time. Not only that, then there will not be freeloaders. If there are not freeloaders, they'll be paying taxes. If they're paying taxes, there will not be parasites to the community. And on top of that, the California transportation system is not going to be burdened. That's the economic side. On the security side, 3 million people will come out of the dark. You will know their names, their addresses, their last names, their faces, date of birth. You will know you'll have their thumbprints, and you will know the country of origin. So you will be able to spotlight terrorists.
Okay, that's when they were discussing to give driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. Now, I'm not going to be mean to Congressman Salazar, but obviously, if you are a criminal or a terrorist, you're not going to pursue illegal driver's licenses. But there was no downside to her. She also could not have predicted, because she doesn't see any downside ever to legalizing illegal aliens, that California would end up doing automatic voter registration from driver's licenses, something that the Trump administration is suing today to make sure that California provides details that they have removed illegal immigrants with driver's licenses from their voter rolls. Here she is on Charles Payne's show, also on Fox News, that DACA recipients are not only ideal immigrants, but they are in fact more American than you or I are. Clip 3.
They are the ideal immigrant because they assimilated already. They love America. They speak English. They are more Americans than you and me. So sending them back, absolutely, it's horrible. It has to be a horrible decision for the president.
And here she is on Neil Cavuto's show in 2017, now Donald Trump is president, saying the president has a golden opportunity to sign an amnesty, but she doesn't want to call it that. Clip 4.
40% of the people that have been deported up to now, around 100,000 people between January and now, 40% of them hadn't had a criminal record or a brush with the law. Same thing happened with President Obama. So what I'm saying, and you asked me, what I'm saying is that now the Republican Party has the golden opportunity, the Republican Party, House and Senate, to step up to the plate and say, here, Mr. President, here's the law that you can sign, giving these kids some type of legality. I mean, I don't want to hear the word amnesty or citizenship.
Legality. I mean, it's a perfect time to sign amnesty when Republican voters just put the Republican Party in charge to protect our borders. It's just a perfect time to stab them in the back. When is it a bad time, according to Salazar's mind, to not give an amnesty? She doesn't really go there, because this clip is 9 years old. This is not like she just started this bandwagon. She's been talking about this for a long time. She even opposed Trump's executive orders in the first term to stop waves of migrants. For her, she wanted Trump to actually, rather than sign executive orders to defend the border, she wanted the president to negotiate with foreign countries and beg them to stop sending their people as illegal immigrants. Clip 5.
30% of Hispanics voted for Mr. Trump. 60% of Cuban Americans voted for him because they would like to see some order when it comes to immigration. But I believe that order comes with a comprehensive immigration reform law, not necessarily doing immigration topics through executive order. Yes, we could solve all these problems. We could have the best relations with our Mexican neighbor. Like I said, it's our third most important business partner in the world, and it controls the people that come in here. We could do 2 things. Immigration reform law, number 1, and number 2, go to Nicaragua and go to Guatemala and talk to them. Mr. Trump is a coalition builder. He knows how to deal with different cultural sensitivities. So he could sit with the 3 presidents and say, hey guys, let's put our house in order. Let me help you not export people. And those countries, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, would love to talk to Mr. Trump, just like right now the Mexicans are loving to talk to the state, Mr. Tillerson.
Right. So nothing to defend America's borders. We just have to beg other countries to stop sending illegal aliens. Her solution to the immigration crisis during Trump's first term wasn't to do a wall, or she was obviously extremely against building a wall, which had it been completed during Trump's first term, we would not have had the same level of waves of migration during Biden's presidency. It was just to spend all of our time and energy begging triangle countries to stop sending illegals. She even wanted American taxpayers to send money to those countries in exchange for not sending illegal aliens. Next clip.
We can go to those 3 countries that are exporting the majority of the people that are knocking on our border and help them put their house in order. Then we could avoid or save the money that we're going to be investing on the $20 billion that will cost to build a wall along the Mexican border. And we could earmark those $280 million that we're giving to those 3 countries, earmark that for what Nicaragua did. No one really talks about why Nicaraguans are not coming and knocking on our border. Because and I'm not a friend of the Nicaraguan government, but they knew how to do it, and they could help us solve the problem. That's another angle.
So to wrap up all these clips, I know I gave a lot out. Maria Elvira Salazar never supported Trump's border wall policies and said they wouldn't work, and said the only way to really stop the migration crisis was to give Latin America more money and work with the Latin American presidents in each respective country. At the time, by the way, they were very far left-wing presidencies, asking them, please, sir, please stop sending illegal aliens. And then, of course, at the same time, grant illegal aliens amnesty, grant them some kind of citizenship. None of this turned out to be true. Trump was able to stop the flow of illegal immigrants in both the first and second term by being tough on enforcement. And what else Maria Elvira Salazar was wrong about was the idea that the immigration crisis would be limited to those 3 countries, those 3 or 4 countries. It wasn't. Under Joe Biden, the whole world came in to this country. The whole entire world showed up at the Mexican border when they knew that they had easy access to the entire interior of the United States. There was no border wall. There was no enforcement. See, she's immensely short-sighted when it comes to the problem of illegal immigration, and she's utterly no shame in the fact that she's wrong. Facts be damned, she's got an ideology to push. So Salazar runs for Congress in 2018, and that interview with Castro that I mentioned at the top of the show, it comes back to haunt her. Democrats say she was overly complimentary to Castro, showing him too much respect, using terms in Spanish that show dignity to this communist dictator that murdered so many people. She goes on to lose that race, but wins in 2020 when Trump flips her district. Her seat was always a seat that historically elected a Republican to Congress, but voted for a Democrat for president. In 2016, Hillary Clinton wins her seat by 17 points. But in 2020, Trump managed to flip it by less than half a point. And in 2024, he goes on to win it by 15 points. This immense growth in support among the Latin American community and the immigrant community. By the way, remember, 2024, he campaigns on mass deportation. It's a huge swing, and she wins on Trump's coattails. By 2024, Salazar wins her reelection by 20 points. She serves in Congress now from 2022 to this year. She's running for re-election. And guess what her constant prediction and warning is to Republicans? If you don't support an amnesty, you're going to lose the next election. She introduces the Dignity Act. This Dignity Act was first introduced in February 8th, 2022. And she said, guess what? It's a golden time to win over the Latino vote. And if they didn't do it, they would lose the next election. She predicts this every single year. She's like that crazy person you see on the street saying the sky is falling or the end is near. Now, this was, by the way, in the middle of the Biden border crisis. Salazar was saying we need to pass mass legalization of tens of millions of illegal immigrants during a border crisis. It would have signaled to them, keep coming because we will give you citizenship. In 2024, she pushed against Congressman Chip Roy's border protection bill, teaming up with now disgraced congressman who just lost his primary, Tony Gonzalez, to push back against the bill. I mean, birds of a feather. In June of that year, Salazar's team starts peddling this story that it was utterly always nonsense, that she was in the running for Trump's VP. They pulled cold water on that pretty quickly. However, she uses this constant press cycle to elevate herself, elevate her name status, and elevate her pet issue, amnesty for illegal aliens. She was always committed to one thing and one thing only, passing the Dignity Act, saying that if Republicans didn't get behind legalization, they were going to lose in 2024. Of course, that also didn't happen, like so many things Salazar says. But here's what Salazar is doing, and she's doing it brilliantly. Every year, she says, Republicans pass amnesty or you're going to lose. That has been the case for the last 4 years. But if you keep saying it, eventually it will happen. Eventually, Republicans will lose an election, like eventually Democrats will lose an election. That's just the nature of politics. And eventually, she can say that she was right, that her prediction was right, even though it has nothing to do with amnesty. It's about the economy. I've talked about that a million times in this podcast. But she'll claim it was amnesty, and the media will pick up and say, oh, look, there was a swing among Latinos. It must be because Salazar was correct, as if she's never said this in the past when it hasn't been proven correctly. It doesn't matter. If the reason is not the same. No one's keeping score of what she's saying and what she's doing. They're just going to detail the last time that she said it. So if Republicans lose the House and or the Senate in the fall, she's going to make the claim it's because they didn't support amnesty. And I'm sure some Republicans, and especially a lot of the people in the media, will believe her. Okay, let's go to the Dignity Act coming up next. Okay, now that we know about Maria Elvira Salazar, she's a woman who, even before being elected to Congress, was talking about the need to defend and support illegal immigrants. She called them more American than Americans. She says that they are the people that are in the most need in the United States, that we should be granting them special privileges. She opposed building a border wall. She wanted to send taxpayer dollars to corrupt countries in Central and South America to get them to stop sending migrants to the United States. But what is her bill, the Dignity, or as it's actually written in Congress, the Dignidad, which is a Spanish version of Dignity? They are completely unblatant about who this is for. What does this bill actually do? By the way, this bill has 20 Republican co-sponsors in the House, many of whom come from very safe Republican districts that have a very small illegal alien population, a very small Hispanic population. So why are they supporting this bill? We'll go into that in 1 second. But here's the bill in sections, so you know which section does which thing. Section 2303 Part D prohibits DHS from deporting any illegals who simply apply for the Dignity program. So by even applying, even if it turns out they're not eligible, they would be prevented from deportation while their status is being handled by DHS. So regardless of their criminal background, regardless of how long they've been in this country, if they have an issue that would waive them from being an applicant, it doesn't matter. They're protected so long as they apply for the Dignity Act, and they can kick around the country for possibly a couple of years while that is all sorted out, and protects more criminal aliens. Section 1502 of the bill opens the floodgates to asylum seekers by decreasing the processing times and mandates DHS ensures contract with legal counsel. In other words, illegal aliens applying for asylum get free lawyers. When I say free, I mean taxpayer funded, American tax dollars. So not only can an illegal alien come here and declare asylum, and I want to make it very clear, a majority of people who declare asylum in the United States are denied their asylum cases. It's over 90% now, but even during the Biden administration, which obviously was very liberal, a majority of asylum seekers were denied asylum. They didn't have actually any legal right or any legal claim to asylum when they applied for it. Under this bill, the American taxpayer will be funding their entire legal case while they're here. Think of how many people applied for asylum under the Biden administration. Another Democrat president comes in. Think about how many more will apply for asylum. This is potentially millions, if not tens of millions of taxpayer dollars to an ever increasing trove of people from the third world who come here and say they need to get asylum because they have some kind of claim, even when they don't. And the thing about asylum is, if you are denied asylum, you could simply apply again. You could petition the court to apply again. You have to do it within 30 days of a judge's decision. This could rake up hundreds of thousands of dollars per illegal alien as they keep doing this. It's crazy. Section 3202 more than doubles the per country immigrant visa cap. So what this means is, so every country that we have country caps for every country for most work visas, H-1B, H-2A, And the way it works is once a country hits their country cap and other countries don't, those countries' applications are pooled together and dispersed for countries that have more applicants than they have people in their country cap. This is like very true for India and China, especially because obviously it's the largest countries. This would double the amount of people applying. Now, I want to make it clear: some visas, some work visas, have no caps on them. So foreign visas, for example. Whenever you hear a farmer say we can't get enough workers, that is completely untrue. There is an unlimited amount of farm workers that can apply for a visa in this country. What they're complaining about is they don't have enough illegal alien farm worker rather than legal, because legal aliens who work on farms have to have certain protections, and farmers just want to, absolutely get illegal aliens where they don't have to pay them as much, don't have to protect them, don't have to put safe work environments, give them transportation, all the rest of it. We give more than 1 million legal work visas per year. Under the Salazar bill, we will be getting more than 2 million work visas per year. Gee, I'm so glad there's not a housing shortage right now, or an AI revolution that's putting workers, in a precarious situation where they can't get a job. What makes this section even more insane is the fact that family members of those applicants do not count towards the cap. So it's 2 million workers and potentially 4 or 5 million people. If you think the housing shortage is bad now, wait. Salazar is going to make it so much worse. And this is especially true for white-collar workers. There's a lot of emphasis on white-collar workers, the people whose jobs are the most in trouble from the AI revolution. This is why a lot of congressmen who have very few Hispanics, very few illegal aliens in their district have signed on to this bill. Why? Because the donors want it so badly, because they get tons of cheap labor and their visa is stapled to their job. In other words, they can't look for a better position. The only way they can stay in this country is if they continue to work at the job, even if the job, has a bad work environment or mistreats them or any of it, other stuff that where employers can sometimes abuse workers. Adding tons of people to compete for the same jobs, overcrowding institutions like schools, taking up some vital resources. There is no special waivers in this application for the public charge or preventing them from getting social services like education or to children's social services. Or obviously, if they have a child in America, that child will then be eligible for every type of welfare program under the sun. It's a permanent and irreversible way to transform the United States. Next section, section 3112, allows the next Democratic Attorney General to terminate removal proceedings against illegal aliens who have a family member as a U.S. citizen. Now, when Democrats come into office, and this is not just true, Democrats, Bush did it as well, but they can just ignore parts of the law. They just don't enforce parts of the law. That is really the problem of our illegal immigration system. Almost everything when it comes to illegal immigration can be solved if we enforce the law. Obviously, Trump solved it. The laws are all written. In the 90s, Clinton signed a treasure trove of laws allowing the president to enforce immigration law. To do immigration law in a way that would stop illegal aliens from crossing the border. It's not a question if the laws are written, it's a question if they're enforced. There's a few places where Congress should get involved, but mostly it's on the president. Rarely do Democratic attorney generals and presidents get involved where they stop removal proceedings in the middle of them, despite the legal. They might ignore the law to stop doing new ones, but they won't actually get involved in stopping removal proceedings. This goes one step further, allowing Democrats to wholeheartedly not only stop new enforcement, but actually cancel old enforcement. And if they have a minor crime, let's say identity theft, let's say they stole your grandma's social security number and they destroyed her credit rating, or stole your child's or yours, it's not considered a violent crime. They would have every right to allow those people in the country and stop their deportation proceedings. Okay, the last section I want to talk about, section 1516, mandates that student loan forgiveness for immigration lawyers who assist illegal aliens in their application for the Dignity Act. So if you're a lawyer and you assist an illegal alien to come into this country illegally and apply for the waiver, you get 75% of your college student loan paid by the taxpayer. It also prevents allegations of gang membership in state and federal databases from being used to determine if someone is eligible for the amnesty program, because she keeps saying, oh no, if you have a criminal record, you can't get this application. Well, they can't even search the state gang databases to see if they're possibly a gang member. This is not only an amnesty program, it is an assault on the American taxpayer, the American worker, and it will be the end of the Republican Party. I know they're saying that, they won't get the vote. These illegal aliens won't get the vote. I promise you, they will get the vote. Congressman Mike Lawler was on the Laura Ingraham show last week saying that Republicans should pass this bill, because if they don't, when Democrats get in office, they're going to have their own amnesty bill, which will be far worse and won't have any enforcement versus the current Dignity Act, which has some kind of fake enforcements. Let's go to that clip.
What the Democrats will do if they get complete control of Congress and the White House, they're going to end the filibuster, and they are going to pass a blanket amnesty bill. That's the fundamental challenge here. What we are trying to do is say, if you came under the Biden administration, you don't qualify. If you have committed a crime, you don't qualify. And here's the thing about legislation, Laura. You understand this better than most.
I love that Laura goes, it's totally not true. And here's what Laura and Salazar and all the rest of them are not saying. If Democrats win and get full power, they're not going to enforce any new supposed enforcement measures in this bill, like they don't enforce the current laws signed by Bill Clinton in the 90s. And two, grant the right to vote for all these people who are here legally, and they won't get the right to vote, they'll get the right to work. They will do that anyway. It's a completely nonsensical argument that Lawler's making. He's saying, support the Republican amnesty instead of the Democratic amnesty, and they can't do it when they can do it. And the Republican amnesty is the Democratic amnesty. That's why they have 20 Democrats joining them in that amnesty. They say the bill is going to end illegal immigration, and that's kind of true, because all it means is all the illegals will be legal. It's not like we're going to get anything. It's just changing the name of the paperwork. And when Salazar and Lawler have been asked, how is DHS going to deal with this process? They say DHS will, they'll deal with it. They'll make the determination. USCIS, which deals with citizenship status, and they deal with visa, are totally understaffed. They have been forever. They're overworked. If they do this Dignity Act, the USCIS will have to process over 6,000 people per day. And that's a conservative estimate. There is no way this is probably going to be done. It's too large. It's too many people. It goes on forever. It's completely reckless. There's no cap, by the way, in the number of illegals that can be in this process. It's not like they're saying, oh, it's 15 million people or 10 million people. It could be 30 million people. It could be 40 million people. There's no limitation at all. And as I said over and over again, in the case of the Reagan amnesty, for 15 years after the Reagan amnesty was signed, liberal judges were waiving all the regulations. They were waiving whether or not someone could get the Reagan amnesty. That was happening till 2002. This could go on easily till 2040, easily. I cannot overstate how much the American taxpayer is being screwed by Maria Elvira Salazar. And I want to take a second and read the names of her co-sponsors of this bill. And if you live in their district, you need to call their office and tell them that you will not be voting for them. You'll vote third party. You'll vote Democrat. You won't vote. You'll skip the line, whatever. I don't care if their district's going to go to a Democrat. It doesn't matter. But they need to know that their own voters are pissed with them. And if you live in a Republican district and your congressman has not co-sponsored, call them and tell them, don't support the bill, that you're opposed to it. The number for the switchboard, by the way, is 202-224-3121. That's 202-224-3121. If we shut down the switchboard because we overload it, the congressional switchboard, it will send a message. Okay, here are the 20 Republicans who have co-sponsored this terrible bill. Obviously, Maria Salazar in Florida, 27, that's Miami. Mike Lawler, who represents Rockland and parts of Westchester County, that's New York, 17. David Baldeo from California's 22nd District, that's the Central Valley of California. Dan Newhouse of Washington State, he's retiring, you don't have to call him. Mike Kelly, he represents all of Western PA from Erie to Pittsburgh. Brian Fitzpatrick represents Bucks County in Pennsylvania's 1st District. Gabe Evans is in the suburbs of Denver in Colorado's 8th District. Marlon Stutzman, he represents Northeast Indiana in Indiana's 3rd. Don Bacon, also retiring from Omaha. You don't have to call him. Young Kim from District 40. She has a serious primary challenge. California District 40. And her opponent is not supporting the Dignity Act as of right now. Mario Diaz-Balart, Florida 26. James Bard, Indiana 4. That's the northwest part of Indianapolis, the suburbs of Indianapolis. Lloyd Smucker, PA 11. That's Lancaster County, the Amish country. Nick LaLota, he represents New York 1 in Suffolk County, New York. Monica De La Cruz from California's 15th with the border of Mexico. Neil Dunn from Florida's 2nd. That's the panhandle of Florida. Jennifer Kiggins, Virginia 2. That's the suburbs of Virginia. Zachary Nunn, who represents the southwest of Iowa. A lot of those places do not have large illegal alien populations or large Hispanic populations. They are in it for the business community who want cheap labor and to screw over the American taxpayer and the American worker. That's why they're in it. They're out to stab them in the back after running, and many times running with President Trump on what he said for mass deportations. I'm very annoyed about this. Immigration's the issue that made me a Republican. It absolutely did. When I was 18 years old and easily influenced, and the Iraq War was going on, I became a Republican because I thought that the words around supporting illegal immigration over American citizens was delusional and insane, and I became a Republican because of that. And I thought we really had turned a corner with Trump, especially Trump in 2024, and the fact that these 20 Republicans are going forward with it. I cannot imagine how much worse it's going to get once Trump leaves the White House. I'm sure they want to return to the Bush days. I absolutely believe it. So I will be having a special announcement on my social media coming out tomorrow, where I will talk about how I'm going to try to fight against these Republicans supporting amnesty and any Republican supporting amnesty. And I will talk about that on the show on Wednesday. Check it out on my social media accounts, especially my Twitter or X at Ryan Gordusky. Okay, next up, Ask Me Anything. First question up comes from David. He says, hey, Ryan, big fan of the show and your work you do. Every millennial and Gen Z friend of mine is not in favor of the current Iran war, but all the boomers I know like it. In 2007, the book The Israel Lobby was released, which criticized the outsized impact of Israel's interest in U.S. foreign policy and decision-making. Looking at the discrepancy of opinion in regard to the current Middle East conflict among different demographics, would you describe as the cause or imperatives of the shift? Opinions towards U.S.-Israel relations? Have people finally caught up with Pat Buchanan, what he said in the 90s during the first Gulf War, that there are only two groups that are beating the drums for war in the Middle East, Israel and Israel's defense ministry and the Amen corner of the United States? That is a very complicated question. Thank you for it. The book, The Israel Lobby, I bought it and then never read it. It's on my bookshelf. It's one of those many books that I have that I'm like, oh, I'm going to get to this when I have free time. And now I'm like, can I get to read a single article in a day? That would be great. What I think on the Democratic side, let's talk about the Democratic side, why the shift in Israel happened. Partially because, this is a very low IQ level intellect that the left is engaged in, but I'm not surprised. The left has a very basic understanding of people who are perpetrators of conflict and people who are victims of conflict, people who are oppressed and people who are oppressors. They view everything through racial terms. And they see Israelis as being white and Palestinians as being brown. And in their heads, brown people are always oppressed against white people. That's the guttural baseline level. There's anti-Semitism sprinkled in, especially among immigrant classes, but that is the guttural baseline white lib, college-educated level. On the Republican side, on the right, I think there's multiple things. And this could be true for some people on the left, but it's mostly on the right. One, I think that we are a war-weary country, and Iraq has totally tainted any kind of military intervention that there will be in this country for a generation. Iraq was such an ongoing disaster and quagmire. Two, I think that the historic context of why Israel is an important nation or why Israel was created after World War II is lost on younger people. We are as far away from World War II as, World War II was from the Civil War. It'd be like explaining the Civil War to somebody born in 1941 as if it was as important as, what happened yesterday. When as time goes on, as history changes, people forget and people don't have a memory of it, and it doesn't mean as much to them. And it just doesn't mean as much to them. And then thirdly, I think that religiosity has changed, and Christian Zionism is not what it used to be. And the as the Republican Party has grown, has changed, and as Trump has expanded, of course, with his election victory, there are just a smaller pool of Christian Zionists in the Republican Party. And even among the American evangelical class, there are less that are Christian Zionists to begin with. So I think you have all three things happening. And I think for a lot of Jews in America who are friends of mine, and I've spoken to them about this, a lot of them who were liberal for a very long time, I think they woke up after October 7th and saw the protests in New York City. Because people need to remember, the anti-Israel protests started the day after October 7th in this country. There were still Jews bleeding out in Israel when they were protesting Israel. Israel had not done a single thing yet. There are just some American leftists and recent immigrants who want to see dead Jews. There's no other actual explanation for why you would protest a country that had just been attacked like October 7th was an attack. That being said, I think that I think that that guttural reaction, that guttural instinct, woke a lot of American Jews' minds up and said, "Wow, we've made friends with all the wrong people." Because for generations, a lot of American Jews, liberal American Jews, were told the left's your friend, and they realized, wow, they're really, really not. And the thing that I really wish we could have a comprehensive, real conversation around Israel that wasn't so I don't know, demonic at times. There is a line between having a real conversation and being anti-Semitic. And when you dehumanize another person, you are being anti-Semitic. And a lot of people on the right are dehumanizing them. They're making them less than people. And that's where I have an absolute hard line. I will not broach that. You will not talk about another person, regardless of their religion or their race, whatever, like they're not human. We all have a soul for a reason. So I think that's why the Israel conversation has changed. It's a very touchy topic. I feel a lot for American Jews. I have a lot of friends who are Jewish. And there are things I disagree with that I would love to have a conversation about. I just don't feel like, one, I'm the most informed person in the world, and two, I don't need to pile on. I just don't need to pile on right now. We could take a breath and then have serious conversations. And there's a lot also I want to learn before I have a serious conversation. I don't like to come to the table uninformed. Okay, next question comes from Trevor. Thank you for that question, by the way. Question comes from Trevor. He wrote to me before. He said, I didn't mention to you last time, I'm from Michigan. Thanks for responding to my email question about amnesty. Don't worry, I don't put you in the same category as the black pillars by any means. Thank you. I'm not a black pillar. I'm positive. I was referring to the people that spend all day, every day dunking on Israel as though they have nothing else happening in the world and then complain that they're not allowed to talk about Israel. That is so true. People who say we're not allowed to talk about Israel can never shut up about it. Even though literally no one is censoring them and they make millions of dollars doing it. I do not make millions of dollars doing this. Hopefully one day as this show grows. Give me a 5-star review, everybody. Since you've been bringing up the census a lot recently, I was wondering if you know whether or not there are plans for red states to run ad campaigns to encourage residents to fill out the census. I read an article back saying that in the 2020 census, blue states should have lost more electoral college votes than they did, and red states should have gained more than they did. But the reason didn't happen because blue states dumped a ton of money and ad campaigns encouraging the residents to fill out the census. That's part of the reason. Part of the reason was a census miscalculation. It was a lot of seats. I mean, it wasn't 100 seats. It was seats though. It was maybe like 4 or 5 that there was miscalculation. And I don't know why Trump doesn't redo the census or do a mid-cycle census. I don't know if that's even legal or possible, but it's not really being floated. I think that there are certain governors that absolutely will. Texas has a huge opportunity to grow to be 44, 45 electoral college votes. I mean, it might be the case where Texas and California are tied in the next census. I don't know if it's possible. As far as electoral college votes and seats go, I could see Texas doing that. I could see Florida doing that. I could see South Carolina that may gain a seat because there's so many people moving there. North Carolina, Tennessee, Arizona, Utah, Idaho, the states that are likely to gain seats, I absolutely could see them trying to do that because they have a lot of political capital to gain in this time. Those are the states that we're most likely to see, by the way, districts gain in red states. Idaho, Utah, Arizona, Texas, Florida, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Tennessee. I think they'll all do some kind of campaign. Okay, next question from Joseph. Hey, Ryan, I was wondering, what are your thoughts on Pam Bondi being fired? Do you think her replacement will be much better? Keep up the great work. Yeah, I don't know Pam Bondi. I have friends who've known her. I have friends who've talked to her. I think that she mishandled the whole Epstein file so poorly. She should have been fired for that alone. She was allegedly fired for leaking, but I think she should have been fired for the mishandling of the Epstein files because she made it a conversation starter again. It wasn't in the mainstream conversation until she handed those binders to those influencers. And for that alone, I think she should have been fired. And she did it without, it wasn't a meeting on Epstein. I've talked about this before. It was a meeting with influencers about what the administration is doing. And she brought these binders to it and gave it to them. And it was very embarrassing. It became the entire media narrative, media story. Okay. Last question comes from, I don't know who her replacement is, so I don't know how they're going to do. Last question comes from Mike. Ryan, per usual, your show is highly entertaining and equally informative. Thank you, Mike. I try. I hope Squawk Box has you on their show during the midterm election cycle. I would love to be on Squawk Box. Now, regarding who the Democrats are going to put their full support behind, my gut tells me it's going to be Wes Moore. His name has been percolating in the party for a while now, and I think that the Houdini magic trick to the backdoor any meaningful discourse on his lying about his background and earning a Bronze Star. Yeah, I would think that too, but the Baltimore news media is really going after him in a way that you usually don't see for Democrats, like an oddly specific. The Maryland Democrat liberal media has been going after Wes Moore. My other two nominees, I think, are potential are either Mark Kelly or Andy Beshear. Now, I haven't heard much regarding Beshear, but I heard all his political pundits throw his name around the contenders. He's so boring. I don't think it's going to be him. They will 1,000% not be. They will not let Kamala run again. That being said, what are your thoughts on the Democratic nominee? Kamala actually went to an event last week, and they were chanting "Run." Here's the thing, and I've said this over and over again. If they allow a state like Nevada, New Hampshire, and Iowa to be the first state to vote, which they don't know what the calendar will be yet, a progressive can be the nominee. If South Carolina goes first, then the entire vote of the next Democratic nominee will be decided upon by Black older women. That is the majority of the vote in these deep southern states still, except for like Florida, I think. But besides that, it's mostly Black older women that decide the Democratic nominee for president. They put Bill Clinton in, they put Barack Obama in, they supported, all these people. I think the only one who got the nomination without their support initially was John Kerry. And look how well that turned out. They got Joe Biden, they gave him his big pushback. So after being down in the polls. So I think that a lot depends on the calendar. Until we know the calendar of what states go first, if it's South Carolina, it's a signal from the Democratic Party that they want an establishment, centrist, who has support from the Black community. If it's Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, it's a wild card. It's a much different electorate. Pay attention to the calendar. We can't know until we have the calendar. Could it be Kamala? I wouldn't say no. I really wouldn't say no. If she has the support of the Black community, if she runs there and says that, I wouldn't say no. I don't know, but I want to see who the calendar is. If it's like Iowa first, I kind of doubt that it's going to be her. But it definitely opens up the door to like a Pete Buttigieg or an AOC or somebody. Andy Beshear is so intolerably boring. I just don't see how he's going to do it. So anyway, that's this episode. I will see you guys on Wednesday. If you like this podcast, please like and subscribe on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or get your podcast. You get a notification saying, guys, new show's out. Come listen to Ryan. And also follow me on YouTube. It helps grow the channel. If you have the time, give me a 5-star review. That also helps grow the channel. I appreciate all of you. I will talk to you guys on Wednesday.